Good morning, Coolest Coast. It is Tuesday, June 16th, 2020. It is 62 and sunny, and welcome to Coffee with Kristen and Tina. Kristen, my friend, how are you doing this morning?
I am great. Good morning.
And I'm so excited because we have a special guest joining us this morning. Miss Patty Roth is going to join us in our feed. Hello, Patty.
Oh, she's glowing.
Good morning. Wow.
This is an intense
glowing.
view, Patty. Wow.
Woo!
Patty, I always knew that you were angelic, but this just really proves the point.
I believe my husband would disagree. So yeah, he's not up to tell us the other side.
It looks like you've descended to this conversation with us.
This is why I don't leave my house in the morning. The views and the sunshine are incredible. There's no reason for me to leave.
Can you give us a quick peek of the view? Can you move your camera around it all? No, okay.
Because I have not weeded or gardened, and then you'll see my true cover. You know, you asking me to lift the covers a lot right now, so I'm going to only lift them halfway, not to
Good morning, Risa. Thanks for joining our feed. So, Patty, what you just demonstrated is a great example of setting boundaries, right? I made a request and you're like, nope, that does not align with my values at this time. So that's a great lead into what we're talking about today, which is boundaries. And there's this little quote about boundaries. It's allowing yourself to set healthy boundaries, to say no what does not align with your values and to say yes to what does. Because boundaries assist me to remain healthy, honest, and living a life that is true to me. What do you think, ladies? Agree?
Oh, double thumbs up.
Double thumbs up.
I will tell you, I was on a walk with a friend not a couple summers ago, and she said, "Tell me, what is your vice?" And it made me stop. I'm like, a vice? Like who? I said, "You know what it is? I cannot say no." And that was a few summers ago. That I have a hard time saying those words. And it immediately at that moment, I knew I needed to change or increase my no's and say less yeses. Because it was pulling me in too many directions.
What's an example of something you weren't able to say no to? What kind of situations did you find yourself in that you regret?
Well, I think as women, what do we say? We say yes to everyone else but ourselves. So helping, I have aging parents in the area, and I am here for a reason to help them. So saying yes to them all the time. I have siblings that I say yes to, family. I am volunteer extraordinaire, so I would say yes to everything. Sign me up, sign me up, sign me up. Weekends, nights, it didn't matter. Extracurriculars, friends that wanted to go out, yes, and more yeses. So that was a great, when she asked me that question, I so appreciated when people can just ask you some hard questions and you get to answer them in a truthful way. My life has changed forever because of that one question.
So you had an epiphany.
I already knew I had a problem, but that really helped me see the problem even more.
Right. Not being able to say no, it sounds like it can lead to emotional exhaustion, physical exhaustion, and not respecting your own needs, your own self-care.
Right? Burnout. Like how many of us have been in that phase where you just need to pause because you're burned out.
Oh, I'm raising my hand.
You're burnout? Yeah, right? I think maybe I'm showing my age, but I would say my entire, after graduating college all the way to 30s, I would say yes to everything. As you're growing and climbing the corporate ladder, anyone that's had a career, you're going to say yes to everything because you don't want to, I think again, as women, we don't want to say no because then that decreases our chances of climbing that ladder.
Right. Now, sometimes it's advantageous when you're young because you're exploring all of the possible avenues and determining what does work for you and what doesn't, so you know what to say no to later. But yeah, it can lead to burnout on the way.
Ooh, that's sudden. Yeah, exactly. I think what was great for, and I know we all have examples, and maybe not specifically to our example, but early in our marriage, so less than 5 years into a marriage, and in our 20s, I was still 20 something, Jason was diagnosed with cancer, and it immediately stopped us enough in our tracks to know what was important in life and to really pause and understand, were we spending the time doing the right things. And it either was going to make us or break us. And by the grace of God, we're still here, and he's healthy, and we're farther along into our marriage. But I go back to that point of the day that he told me, when I get too busy or my schedule gets overcommitted, I stop and pause and think, what did I look up to someone and say, I will trade anything if he's okay? And now that we have young kids, I that is kind of my compass, and what I'm willing and not willing to do anymore.
So really prioritizing your time and what's meaningful to you. And it sounds like you've got some, creative ways, some important ways that you manage your calendar, for example, some tips and tricks for making sure that that's the case.
Yeah, I can say a calendar has been my best friend, and I know some people just have a hard time living by a calendar that feels too structured to them, but my accounting background, past brain, and it's still my brain, I try to get away from it, but you have to stay at least a little bit structured, so you understand your values and you know what's important. And that's going to look different for me than it is for Kristen, than it is for you, Tina. You're going to have, we all are in different life cycles, family stages of life, little kids versus big kids, but you need to schedule some time for you to understand what that is. Because if we're so busy hustling and bustling, how do we even know what's important in our life?
And here's a really good comment, Cindy, a good observation. We are no good to others if we are not good to ourselves.
That is so true.
Right. So Patty, let's talk about, how do you carry that discipline forward? Or how do you make decisions now? I know for me personally, one of the things I struggle with is like volunteer activities, for example. I'm serving the community, I'm serving my kids, I'm serving my husband. Like sometimes it's so hard to decide what's the right thing to do because I feel like I'm doing the right thing in all of those categories.
Sometimes, right? Like, did you hear my pause? Sometimes I think it's okay to not answer right away and say, I have to get back to you. I think I learned that from another friend. I don't owe anyone an answer immediately. Most of the time you don't, right? Unless it's a medical emergency or something. But then take a pause, and you are going to wake up and know if it's the right or the wrong decision. Like your gut, trust your gut. As women, I think we have a gut meter like no other. I don't know if men just don't have one or just don't think about it or what it is, but I think women have a gut meter and we know whether it's the right or wrong decision for us at that time. Maybe childbirth gives us that. I don't know. Something does. Like we know what our priorities and our instincts are. So don't ever lose that.
And I think that there's really something to that. I think that that's true. And I think sometimes societally, we're convinced not to pay attention to that. Like it's just, lumped into something called feelings and, how can that, but truly that is something I think that we can rely on and that women really do excel at. We should embrace that.
Absolutely. I think women's guts in a boardroom have more logic than sometimes men's egos in a boardroom. And that's a pretty big statement right there. I understand, but
not everything can be reflected in a spreadsheet.
Right. But Kristen, I think when we feel like we're doing everything right, I think life has a way of showing us that sometimes it's time to take a pause. Life events, whether that's big or small. The last 3 months, I think, was a good indicator that we all needed to take a pause and figure out what was really important. Doing value-driven reading or studying, I don't know. If you don't like to read, I say listen to something, a video, a podcast, but knowing your values. I did that work when I transitioned out of corporate world and into more entrepreneurship. I really needed to find my inner meter again because all the chatter was you need to stay in your corporate world to be successful. But I knew that was not the right thing for my family or me at the time. With little kids, I wanted to be there because we didn't think we would ever have kids. We were given a small chance, so having 2 kids is a miracle in itself. And they take a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not getting any younger.
And
But
they
I
grow
want-
up so fast.
They
So
grow
every
up so
moment
fast,
that you
yeah.
can, spend and then share, and then you've got those memories, because in the blink of an eye, it's gone.
Right. So it was really a pause to me, and I needed to work on where my worth was. It's hard to come out of a working world for so long and then have these kids and figure out as a woman what your worth is. And
You do really
now,
have to redefine yourself.
yep,
It's
it's
true.
no longer tied to the work I do. It's who I am and how we treat each other. I mean, it's the biggest thing.
Right. So we've got this fabulous comment from Heather. Good morning, Heather. It says, I appreciate the comment. You don't anyone. Sorry, I totally screwed that up.
Need your coffee.
Let me.
All right, coffee break. Quick coffee break.
Speaking of taking a pause, you don't owe anyone an answer right away. I do better when I say, I'll get back to you. I don't keep a calendar on my phone so that I have to check my paper calendar in order to make a commitment. That's a good tip. So like I need to get home and check before I can give you an answer. Good idea.
Well, and we have to check like what everyone else in the household's doing. Sometimes I forget it's not all about me, right? It's not all about us anymore. And a family unit needs to work together. Otherwise, the family unit falls apart quickly.
Right.
And I found too that with kids, it's kind of nice to fold them into some of these activities. If there's volunteering that you're going to do, if there's something that you can all do together as a family, it satisfies both those things then, the being together and the doing good works.
Absolutely. And what I like to do for fun and on my own is very different than what my husband likes to do for fun and on his own. But that doesn't mean that I don't schedule in his own time. Whether it's with guys, by himself, much more an introvert than I am. So I like to go out with a group. He might be at the library, but that is still in the schedule that he gets downtime from being a husband and a dad. They need to recharge. Everyone's carrying a load in the family. We all have different responsibilities, but we also all need to recharge, including kids. They need to recharge too.
So did any of that get thrown into turmoil with the safer at home, since that changed the world order, or did you guys smoothly go through that?
Well, we were super fortunate this time. I would say in 07 and 08, if you lived through the financial crisis back then, we were in much different situation than we are now. So I'm grateful that we learned some things and made some corrections. Then we, were having a little baby and a newborn and both working 50 plus hours a week. That was a lot of stress and probably a reason that we couldn't get pregnant so easily with baby number 2. And then add financial crisis on top of it. Everyone had their own story. But this time we were really still we were loose on the calendar because there weren't a whole lot of things going on. But even more so, I think we all needed that downtime more, whether it was to read or to watch videos or to something. We needed more of, and thankfully with my flexible schedule, and still be able to work and other things and him working, we made it okay. I felt one of my jobs was to help others get through it or just to touch base with them because maybe you didn't need any help, but it was really nice to see a note. Hope you're doing okay today, right? Just those little touches to people make a huge difference. I know
Kristen,
I have notes.
Kristen, as a strengths coach, do you sometimes talk about values and boundaries? Do you help, your clients come to what those, an understanding of what those are for themselves individually?
Yeah, a lot of times people actually come to me for help with time management because they feel like it's out of control. Somebody I'm working with right now literally gets like a volume of 300 to 400 emails a day, and they just can't manage that on top of the workload, right? And so, you talk about strategies and how do I get through that. So I actually have my name tag on today. I'm teaching a session today here in town. Let's get this right. So you guys can see I have achiever number 1 and responsibility number 3. That's highly problematic for me because I also don't know how to say no. And then my responsibility takes psychological ownership for it. So I can never give in or let anything go. I have to follow through. So, sometimes it does kind of get heavy, or this time of year is busy for softball, obviously. And I get to do that with my kids, so I feel really excited about that. It's inclusive with them, but it is hard when we're drafting teams and I'm helping other coaches and I'm working and taking care of the girls. And, we've got weekend camping trips and visits with Doug's family coming up and so many amazing things. But Doug said to me last night, Patty, to your point about Jason, Doug kind of said, I'm starting to see like things get kind of heavily loaded for you. How are you going to manage that? And so I know then like he's starting to voice his concern, and I appreciate that's part of what our relationship is about, is to say, I'm waving, let's go right here, waving my white husband flag to say, I'm starting to see you overload yourself. We need to kind of figure this out. So yeah.
Well, at least Doug asked it in a more diplomatic way than when Jason just said, where am I on the priority list of your priorities? Mr. Engineer has his meters off. It always has been, but it's okay. I mean, I knew that about him, but that's like a gut punch.
Yeah.
Because family is one of my top values, Tina. I took a test, and marriage, we're going on 23 years.
Yeah, wow.
Keep him a priority. And there have been, after the cancer diagnosis and when we knew we were in the clear, but also knew that we should not be getting pregnant, both of us just buried our heads in work. And that might not have been the best, because then we came out of that trying to get pregnant and really had to work on our marriage again when there's a little newborn in the picture, right? We know what babies do to a marriage. They blow it up a few times, but
it completely shifts the priorities. It's
right.
like, taking a bag and like dumping it out and having to scrape everything back in and figure out where it goes.
Right.
I've got a teen now, and it was interesting because there was like a definite break. So, I used to be, super active in theater and all of this stuff. Then I had a child. And so everything, the focus changed, and I was really happy to do it. But then when he was about 12, all of a sudden I didn't need to be mom Tina as much. He was more willing to go out on his own, identify with himself. And in a way, it was almost like how a breakup might feel, right? Because it shifted that relationship. But I got to redefine myself and become kind of Tina again first before being mom first. It was, I think that's esoterically fantastic.
Absolutely. Like that we never lose some of our interests that we've had maybe all of our lives. I love being outside. I love decorating. Like some of that stuff, don't lose because you're a mom or a wife. Like we need to feed us with that fun. Maybe it's rock climbing. Who knows? Whatever it could be.
Kristen, do you want to put in a little plug for the rock climbing? Last week, Sarah and I, you can see way back in the corner wall, that is Sarah climbing the wall. Nice. Kristen, I think there's a ladies' night that you've got coming up, right?
I just want to make sure I tell everybody the right date. It's Wednesday, July 15th.
That's this week. Oh, July 15th or
July
June
15th?
July. Oh, July.
Also, Wednesday. Now.
I can do it.
Yeah. It is Wednesday, July 15th from 6 to 7 p.m. It's right around $12 once you register. There's tax in there. But yes, it's a special ladies' night. There's only 15 spots available. I know at least probably 6 of them are gone already. So if that's something you want to do, I will be there. Patty will be there. I'm pointing at Patty, I think.
I signed up. Yeah.
Tina's going to be there.
Now I am. I'm so glad we had this conversation. I was totally reading that as June. So funny.
Awesome. So we're going to go climbing that night, and it sounds like there's a bit of socializing or dinner that might happen after. So anybody that comes, we'd love to have you join us. But this has really turned into, who knew that a Coolest Coast episode a couple weeks ago was going to turn into a ladies' night in July. Mary's joining us. There she is.
Mary.
I just know, like Patty said, that I'm not always great about putting time on the calendar for myself. And
Chris, join us. It would be awesome.
Chris is your neighbor, right? Is that Chris, your neighbor?
She's my beloved neighbor. Yeah.
Your beloved.
She's been awesome with the kids. She gives them their time. They play hide and seek in the trees and the woods. Yeah, it's wonderful.
So yeah, we're going to get out that night and take some time to be adventurous and be brave and have some just good old girl time. I feel like kind of coming out of being safer at home, it's time now to get back with my girls a little bit and get some time out. You know, I'm 24/7 with the husband and the children. So it's time to find some brain recovery space.
And it really is a great activity because it's one that you feel accomplished for doing, whether it's just clinging to the wall or going all the way up or deciding to rappel, like any part of it just feels like a good personal accomplishment.
I think one signing up is brave enough. That is
making that commitment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Ladies, this has been a super enjoyable conversation. Patty, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I do want to sign off. There's just one more graphic about boundaries that we can leave everyone with. You know, benefits of boundaries. You've got better self-esteem, you're conserving your emotional energy, and you've got more independence by valuing what's important to you.
Yeah. Patty, thank you so much for joining us. One of the reasons we had this idea is I just so much value how good you are. Even if you don't feel like you're good at boundaries and family, I admire you for this. I consider you to be a mentor in the boundaries arena for me. So thank you for joining us today. I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for inspiring us.
Thank you. It's always good to chat.
And, you know, before we sign off too, I just want to give a shout out to Amber Dogs and Grow It Forward. This weekend, they fed over 830 people. And so that is just amazing. I'm so thankful that we've got great people like that in our community.
That's
Ladies,
amazing. That the organization that's donating all that food, that must be a massive amount of food coming in.
It's got to be a massive amount. And it's, you know, it's meat, it's dairy, it's veggies.
That's incredible. Congratulations, guys.
This community rocks. Right? Thanks to you. Thanks to everyone who's watching, and thanks to everyone else out there. You guys stay well on the coolest coast. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.